Buenos dias, Gunners Collective. Back at it, you already know how I does it. Like a motherfucking. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Orale. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Like a motherfucking ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Like a motherfucking smack at it. Bye-ya. Bye-ya. Yes, indubitably. Indeedy, I'm going to write graffiti on this bus. And as you can tell in a menudo style in direct fashion by that thumbnail, we're going to talk about the most treacherous, dangerous, vicious, man, hit I ever seen performed in front of me, right? This one right here, gente, was the real deal. Holyfield with 2 ears. This thing right here, this shit right here, I said this shit right here, this was different, right? So I'm in Corcoran. I'm in Corcoran and I'm posted up. I'm doing my time. I'm fully active. I'm functioning. I'm active and I function, right? I'm doing my thing. And let me tell you something about prison, okay? A lot of prison channels will tell you war stories. A lot of prison channels will tell you the day in the life of a prisoner, what happens in prison, a lot of the history of the organizations and the gangs in prison, the politics, things of that nature, right? Right here, I'm giving it to you real deal. Right here, I will say this. This story right here, I've spoken on in segments and fragments, but I've never given the whole direct story. This one right here was the most vicious hit, period, known to man. Nah, this was a vicious one. My antennas were definitely up. Cucaracha status. I was peeping the game on this. So in prison, on the daily schedule, for the most part, it's boredom. Okay, people will sit here and tell you prison is the most dangerous place in the world, man. It goes down daily. It's crazy. And that depends on what yard you're on. If you're, of course, in high desert, a fully functioning 184 yard, yes, it gets a little dangerous. It gets a little sticky. The politics there are played a little bit more heavier than other places just based on the gente that are there. Now, of course, it ain't a particular yard. It ain't a certain yarda that, hey, this yard always cracks. It's 100% guaranteed. Stamp that, reverse it. Is it worth it? Let me flip that and reverse it. It ain't all that, okay? What it is the individuals, the characters that are there and the movement that they're pushing at that particular time. You can get a yarda, or you could be on a yarda, say in high desert, and it's easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl. It's smooth, right? Your whole time there, man, you might see a couple removals, a couple pegadas, due to people's infractions or how they're acting out of character. And so be it. Such is life. Prison is prison. But at the end of the day, when a fucking yard is really rocking, when it's really rolling, oh, you'll know it. And you'll definitely feel it, No one will go unscathed. This is how prison is, especially in the California Department of Corrections, one of the most vicious systems in America. In the world, Craig, right? Period. So, Corcoran Prison, it has a long history. The gladiator fights happened in Corcoran. You have a lot of things that go into Corcoran. This was one of the first places where the PHU was established, meaning a protective housing unit where they set all the degenerate and trash, and I mean real trash. People with weird cases, people that shouldn't be walking these yardas anyways, would go to this particular building. So it was a well-known, notorious place. But right across the street from Corcoran Prison is another prison, SADF, the Substance Abuse Treatment Facility. And it was mostly and specifically made for inmates or prisoners, convicts that had substance abuse problems. Now, of course, over time, they started sending anyone there. It was just another prison. The more beds that opened up, more bed space they had, Sasuke, they'd send people there. Lifers, car thieves, all the way from fucking stealing fucking Tic Tacs right there in aisle 9 at Lucky's, all the way to fucking someone who whacked you in the middle of the night. There was a lot of different gente there, so that means there's a lot of different attitudes, a lot of different rhythms, a lot of different vibes, a lot of different stilo. But what doesn't change and what never changes over time is it's prison. And prison is dangerous. And if you find yourself fucking in the wrong place at the wrong time, you can come up cut up in pieces on that right yard at that right time. That's just how it is. Okay, this particular story that I wanted to speak on today and I wanted to give you, it's not a war story because no war happened. It was just a plain and simple pegada, a hit, a murder, or whatever the case you want to call it. It happened. It's for reals. It's a fact. I stamped that. So let's get my name. It's written all over your face. You don't have to say your word. Let me do the talking. You do the listening, Sasuke. Let's proceed from there. Menudo style. So trip. SADF. I find myself in SADF and I go to gym living, right? Gym was basically an overflow. So when you would get there, immediately you were put in administrative segregation pending a bed opening. Depending upon availability of a cell or bed space. Now, of course, in prison, for the most part, everybody wants to be in a cell. It's more private. You only have to worry about one person who's going to hit you at night, if that. And you get a good cellie in Sasuke. It makes time just that much better. So everybody's fighting for themselves, man. Everyone's trying to get in there. But the administration, whoever's running these yards, being the fucking placas, they're going to put you where they put you. And you don't have Sasuke, you can't argue the fact. You must maintain GP eligibility. You must go into the cell they put you in. Now, what happens inside that cell? Sasuke can stay in that cell. Or it could hit the yard. And if it hits the yard and it's in a bad way, Sasuke, the yard's going down that day. See, I rhymed. So trip out. I went from administrative segregation into the gym. Okay, now the gym, what happens was in a lot of these prison yards, what they did because of the overcrowding, the overpopulated, the overpopulation of inmates in the California Department of Corrections, they started converting a lot of these gyms that were gymnasiums back in the days, with weights, jump ropes, shit, you know what I mean? They started converting them into big dormitories, basically big dorms. Now, there were several of them throughout the state of California, and this one in SADF was a dangerous one. The reason it was dangerous is you had a lot of active gang members inside, this gym. So everyone had a way to function. Every different particular group had a way they wiggled. Now, being a norteño, a northerner at that time, not a northerner, but a norteño, right? We had a certain different way that we did things. We always had postes. We always had homeboys on alert. There was a lot of filtering going on right there. There was a lot of wiggle, and we always maintained, man, what we did. We were very militant with our push. Plain and simple, period. Now, I will say the Southsiders, the Sureños as well, man, they were always up to par. They was always peeping the scene, peeping the game. Everybody had their soldados. Everybody had their manpower. Everybody had those individuals you just didn't fuck with, right? But there was a big mix of different people there. Of course, you had the Africanos, the Crips, the Sangres, and the Kumis. They were functioning within there. You had a lot of Usos, meaning the other car. They were good gente, man. I remember they used to fuck with everyone. Everyone had a lot of love for the Usos. And the Asians, of course. Shout out to my Asian brothers. You already know what it is. And then, of course, you had a handful. Again, sprinkle in the whites for flavor. They were there as well. And they did their thing in that wood pile. And that wood pile stood and it didn't burn up. Sasuke, it was just a nice solid wood pile. Shout out to my woods. They were doing their thing. But I paid more attention to what was going on with me and, of course, the targets. Now, everybody has a target in prison. And if you've ever been to a 4-yard, a 180, or a 270, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I'm going to give you guys the rundown. A target is someone, man, that you specifically look at or you're assigned that person to peep game. Watch their stilo, watch their rhythm, watch their get down. Look at what they're doing. Watch how they're facilitating messages back and forth. You're supposed to keep your eyes on this person and this one target solely. For the most part, because if anything goes down, if something was to crack off, this was the guy that you were assigned to get at. Viciously, quite viciously. So I had a couple targets in there. But at the same time, man, they were just doing the same old thing, getting their cantina, getting their packages off the yard, and maintaining. So I wasn't really tripping, but I never fucking got caught slipping, right? I was always watching. I'm watching you. It's saying you're watching me, right? I already knew what time it was, and the eye in the sky is watching us all. The gunner with the gun. You know what I mean? Only this gunner right here never ran. So we're chilling. Okay, so this particular day, there had been a CO. She was kind of younger. She was a rookie. She came in there and she changed the whole process of this gym living. Meaning she fucked it all up for everyone. You get these placas that come in and a lot of them are just trying to do their pinche job. They're just trying to do their jale. They come in. You start to get familiar with their schedules. Who's going to work on Mondays? Who's going to work on Thursdays? And you start to know what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. You got to understand, in prison, everybody is moving and grooving. The grooving is real. Okay, there's a lot going on that I can't speak on, and there's a lot that I will speak on. I will say this. Everyone has a program. Everyone's functioning up to par as they should. And the Placa's whole fucking concept and whole job is to try to catch you in your movement. Sometimes you get caught. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't, right? It just depends on if that fucking cop is slick enough and has a keen eye to catch what's going on. But for the most part, a lot of them don't. Right? So anyways, we knew who to fuck with, who not to fuck with. But she was about to throw a whole stick in the spoke because this hyena comes in and immediately she has an aggressive attitude. She was mad at the world, or especially mad at the inmates and the population, like she didn't want to be there. Like this bitch didn't want to do her pinche job, right? She just came for the money and to fraternize with people, but she didn't come to really do her job, which was watching the safety and security of the institution and maintaining that and making sure everybody was doing what they're supposed to do. And, you know, count time, movements, chow. Sasuke, bitch, just do your job. We got this. This is our home. You're just here visiting. But of course, she didn't take it that way. She implemented her own program, meaning she was going to make us suffer for being incarcerated. Now, you know that shit wasn't going to fly. But of course, it went down for several months before this incident took place. So we started to know that this hyena worked on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, okay? Those were the worst days. That means everyone put your phone up. Sasuke, everyone hoop your pedazo. Everyone put away your shit because this hyena was known to come rip beds up. And I say rip them up like a pit bull on a motherfucking pork chop, right? She was different, like fucking Miklo on Big Al's fingers, right? She was sucking shit up. It was ugly. Now, what made her and set her apart from everyone else was she actually was good looking. She actually was a cute chick, right? So everybody, she used to come in, she was not going 9-9, you know what I mean? She'd come in and right? Everyone would be all happy. But at the same time, they knew that she was a dangerous individual because she would come rip pictures up, throw all your fucking property all over the place, and do it for no other reason just because she could. Okay, now these type of guards, these type of COs are the ones nobody likes, the ones that everybody watches out for because they're going to mess up the whole programa, right? They're going to put the spotlight on you. They're just going to disrespect you and make you look bad where you're forced. They're going to force your hand, right? So she came in. I remember I never made eye contact with this chick. So I looked at her ass, but I didn't look in her eyes, right? And for one reason, I'll tell you right now, was because I didn't want that smoke. See, you can talk all that shit you want. So shit, I catch that smoke with anyone. Anybody could get it. So I'm going to get off where I'm mad at, indubitably, right? But at the end of the day, when it comes to a CO, you know you can't win. They usually have the upper hand. And what this chick had above all else was her looks, and all these guards were on her. They were on her like motherfucking bull terriers on fucking carne asada, right? These motherfuckers was on it, okay? They was on her like a bulldog on a northerner, man, when they catch him slipping. They was on her like a fucking sureño back in the days on a fucking Africano, man, when they were enemigas. They were on it. And she definitely was on it, right? And she knew it. So what happened was she would utilize her looks and her little young game or whatever she had to manipulate a lot of these placas into doing dirt with her. And she would threaten inmates. You know, when you'd be like, hey, why'd you take my legal work? Or why'd you rip up my papers? Or you can't look at that, man. That's against the rules or the regulations of the law. And you know what she would say? Shit, don't make me get my homeboys to get you. Now, that was like gang threat, right? She's talking about other COs, IGI, things of that nature. We're not going to go too much into that, but let's just say she was performing in a threatening manner. She was basically held us hostage against our will. There was nothing we could do. Now, like I said, I never had an incident with this female because I knew better. That's why I did better. You know, I didn't want that smoke. I kind of just minded my own business. She'd walk in and she would try to lock eyes. This bitch was like the Terminator. She would try to lock eyes with people hoping that they'd smirk or smile or even breathe. So that way she could tear their bed up. And I've seen her many a times, man. She would go to people's beds, get off your bunk, tear your fucking bunk apart, rip your mattress open, throw all your, all of your, whatever you had inside your locker, man, all your comida, all your fucking, your hygiene products. She would just, whatever you had, she would destroy it. Step on bags of chips. She was just a highly disrespectful female, man. Now, I don't know if at home she wasn't getting the pipote langote. I don't know if Tyrone was giving it to her long dick style or she was in there coming up short. Either way, she had some chip on her shoulder and it was time for her block to get knocked off. So Trip, along comes a vato. I'm not going to use his name. I have in the past. I'm not going to use it now. Hoping people forgot. But he was an active sureño or active Southsider, a viejo. When I say a viejo, I mean someone that's been around a long time, been down 30 plus years. Just been with the program, and he found himself even as a lifer right there in the gym, and he had a lot of respect. I remember we used to watch him, but he didn't really pose a potential threat. You could tell he was with the business and would get off if he had to, but at the same time, the vato was just maintaining and doing his own holiday, doing his own thing, right? He used to work in the kitchen. He'd go to work in the kitchen. He was one of the cooks. Of course, a lot of the lifers are always the cooks. So he had a good holiday, man. He was just doing his thing, doing his tiempo, didn't bother anyone. This guy was good at doing tattoos and drawing. I remember this. So he had a lot of art supplies. He had a lot of legal work. Anyone that's been locked up with someone who's a lifer, man, knows that they got those fucking boxes, 6-7 boxes full of legal work. You know, they're trying to fight their case. They're always trying to appeal. They're always trying to get action to get back out. This was that type of individual. So the way the bunks were all made up, they were all side by side. And of course, usually for the most part, you slept wherever they put you. Whoever was your bunkie was your bunkie. Of course, as soon as program would open up, groups would start migrating towards their certain areas. That's how it always was in any dorm that I was ever in. That's how it was in this particular dorm. But one day this hyena comes in, and I don't know if she fucking was on her period, so I guess she didn't have a Kotek. Either way, she walks up to this guy, and no one ever had messed with him, man. He didn't even talk much. He was subsequent to that day, I never even heard his voice, right? She actually walks up to him, and he has a bottom bunk, and the top bunk was empty. Now, the sergeant, the lieutenant, whoever it may be, he had a little juice, so he had got at him, and they said, yeah, we're going to keep that bunk empty because we're just waiting to transition you back into a cell. Of course, this vault had been there for a few months. He was trying to get back into a cell. So that way he could be comfortable and live his life. You know, he was there forever. So he had all his legal work under the bunk, and he had all his drawing. And, you know, they give you could buy on Cantina packages. You can get these fucking, you know, big old fucking, what do you call it? Vasos, right? And most of them are made, people drink Kool-Aid. They drink their Tang, their coffee, their Pruno sometimes. You know, whatever you're going to drink out of it. He had all his color pencils and all his art supplies stuffed in these, and he had several of them on this bunk. His art paper, you know, his little thing he had going on. And of course, she comes over, and right from the gate, she's like, get off your bunk. So he knows he has a search coming. Hey, he's a lifer. This ain't his fucking first rodeo. It's all good in the hood. And she throws all his pencils on the ground. He looks at her like, bitch, right? He's upset, but he's not getting out of character. So I could see her just tearing his bunk up, and she starts ripping his pictures off the wall that he had on there. Now, of course, you know, there's rules in prison. You're not supposed to put pictures on the wall in certain areas. You got designated areas for this, but no one messed with them. No lieutenants, no captains, nobody messed with them because this guy's doing all day. This is his little spot. This is his home. You just leave vatos like that alone, right? But no, Charlie, she wasn't going to leave him alone. So she tears his shit up. You can tell he's feeling some type of way. And of course, all the other Southsiders are looking like, damn, that's it, right? They're mad too. So you would think someone would make a move on her right then and there, but no one did. So immediately after she does this, he's pleading with her to leave his family pictures alone. This is all he has. She's fucking crumbling him and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So she leaves, right? She goes back to the podium. He starts putting his bed back together again. And all of a sudden, I noticed the Southsiders have a junta. You know what I mean? That's their business. What was discussed and spoken on, I can't call it like an alcoholic. I will tell you that they had a very heated junta in the corner. Sasuke, we were already up to par. We were already peeping game. Sasuke, our awareness and our antennas were going. We were up in a menudo stand in direct fashion, ready to get off if we had to, because sometimes one thing can lead to another. Vatos could be mad about that and take it out on someone else. Sasuke, but at that particular time, man, their attention and their focus was on this chick. You know what I mean? This hyena, and how she was fucking desecrating his property. You know, that's one thing in prison you don't do is fuck with another man's food or his property, especially his pictures of his family. That can get you dealt with swiftly. You know, the repercussions for that action happen fast. So anyways, a couple days later, that was on like a Wednesday. Here comes Friday. She walks right in the building, drops her little fucking bolsita off at the podium. There's another cop there. He probably pinches her fucking nalgas and right? And then she takes off straight to the vato's bed, tells him, get up again. Now, this is called nitpicking. This is she was aggressively trying to get at this guy. Of course, he had set his shit back up, man. It was all good. He had talked to a lieutenant, whoever he needed to talk to, I'm sure. They said it was all good in the hood. She destroyed his shit again, right? So I remember him looking at her aggressively, and I remember him telling her, do you know what you're doing? And she said, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. Get against the wall. Don't make me call my people in here. You know what I mean? We'll take you for a little ride. You'll go to SEG. You'll go to the hole. This, and that. She's threatening him. Now, you're threatening this motherfucker with a good time. He ain't tripping. The oil? Bitch. Sasuke, I'm going to go in there and fish with the homies and draw cards all day. It's all good in the hood. It's just another part of the prison. That's what people don't understand. They think by threatening, by putting you in the oil, it's going to do something. Charlie, that's a shit. You can kick it. Sleep all day if you're smart, right? Anyways. Trip out. So of course she destroys his stuff again, and I could tell he's feeling some type of way. So the weekend passes. You know, the weekend passes, everything's good in the hood. It's back to business as usual comes Monday. And Monday this hyena walks in, only it was a little bit different, right? It was a little bit different. So she walks in, she puts her bag down, she talks to fucking Biff, you know what I mean? She makes like a tree, she gets on out of here, and she starts going towards my bunk. Right? And I wasn't celled up, but I was on a bunk. My bunkie was a homeboy Chino from Sakura, right? From 14th Street, 14th Ave. He looks at me, he's like, fuck, homie, right? Here she comes. I was like, don't look at her, right? Of course, she looks at us and she kind of like, you guys think you're bad. And she just pushes. And I said, oh, she's going to go target this vato, right? Of course, she starts walking up to him. She says, I see you got your pencils off the bed. And he said, look, I don't want no more problems, whatever. And his pencils are still on the ground, and she kicks them all over. And she goes, you need to pick those up. You're taking up the aisle space, right? All I can say is this. It was chow time. We were getting ready to go to chow, right? It was a movement. Movements are mandatory, right? something else was mandatory too. It was mandatory that this guy was going to handle his business at this particular time. This man proceeded to jump up, do some type of somersault. I never seen that happen before, so it was like a Bruce Lee mixed with a Cantinflas move, right? He jumps up, does some type of somersault, pulls out the biggest sword I ever seen in my life, and proceeds to fucking plunge it in her fucking face. Saw! This bitch fell. She's doing the fitter and combustion like Humpty Hump. She's doing the Humpty dance on the ground, and he proceeded to fucking do a few more things to her of a stabby manner, okay? Now, I'll say this. This is what happens in prison when you continue to mess with a man who has nothing to live for. This man had already exhausted all his appeals. He was doing life without the possibility of parole. He was there. There was nothing that she could do about it, and she chose the wrong one. Oh, yeah, today you had time, cuz, right? Well, today he did too. And that was one of the most vicious, treacherous. There was sangre everywhere. Quietly as was kept, they brought us sack lunches. There was no movement. They slammed us on our bunks, face down, made us cover our fucking head with our pillows. Yes, they made us do this. And they proceeded to snatch old boy up. We could hear him putting a little beat down on him. Now, a couple of the Southsiders, man, they were getting crazy with it too because that was their camarada. And, of course, they got snatched up and went along with them. After proper investigation, the black is trying to talk to him. Did you see it? See what? Right? What I seen was it was chicken night, bitch, and you kept me on my bunk all night. So that's getting a sack lunch with a bologna sandwich. That's what I seen, right? No one's seen nada, and no one knows nada. And that's just how it went. Of course, ultimately, man, I heard it through the grapevine. The word on the curb was this Vato got convicted of another murder. Yes, he body bagged her. They took her out on a body bag. There was no fucking meta flight. There was no ambulance. There was, you're done. That's a fact. That happened. And I remember, man, you know, the yard, a few days later, we were on lockdown. We went on lockdown for a week, the whole institution, man, because there was a killing of a guard, supposedly, allegedly, right? And they didn't know what was behind it. But eventually, man, they found out it was her own riff-raff, bullshit-ass moves that got her stuck in that situation. So that right there was one of the most vicious, treacherous moves I ever seen done. And like I said, it happens. When you're fucking with the wrong people in prison, man, bad things will happen to you. The best thing to do when you're in prison, I don't care if you're a CEO, I don't care who you are, is to mind your own or your own will remind you. Yes, you know, that's just the way it is. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed that story. It was a true story. That's facts. With that being said, man, go out there and move fast with a purpose in life. If you don't want to get caught up in situations and push someone's buttons and have them push yours back, then stay and maintain your own. With that being said, man, I hope you like this. Please hit that like and subscribe. There's a button right there, a bell. You can pet that, you can touch that, you can lick that, you can stick that or reverse it. Whatever you got to do, man, if you like it, you'll get notified. If not, you can hit that thumbs down. Heavy as the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to do what I does anyways. I'm the gun. These are real stories. Corcoran was a shit. Bang, bang.